Hello and welcome back. Today we're doing something fun. We are going to look at NuxtJS with Laravel. Let me just put on some do not disturb for an hour so that we can just get some stuff done. So what are we doing? We have a repo somewhere. Have I opened it yet? No. It's over here. Here it is. Laravel Nuxt. I'm going to drop this in the chat. And we're just going to stick up a quick banner so you can see it. You can come and check out this repo. It's got very little in here. It's got a README, git ignore, and then we've got our API, which has our Laravel application, and we've got our web here, which is our NuxtUI minimal starter kit. Now, if you haven't used it before, NuxtUI is basically awesome. To put it bluntly, it is just amazing. I'll drop some links to all of this in the description at the end. But let's just focus in on this code and let's get going. Right, so can I do that one? What's that button do? There we go. So what are we doing? We have got an application, a Nuxt application running on localhost 3000. Here is the login. It is using Nuxt Laravel Sanctum. So we have got inside of our API, we are using, let me close some of that down. There we go. Let's come up. We're using Laravel Sanctum and Laravel Breeze. Laravel Breeze, basic API template that comes with it. Everything's all pre-configured, ready to go. I've bumped it up to 8.3, and we're using directory tree authorization. Now, if you haven't used that before, it's a pretty cool new package by the one only Steve Bauman. I just like the look of it. It seemed cool. But Nuxt, what is Nuxt? It's basically the way you should be building full stack JavaScript frameworks, JavaScript applications. It's got a nice UI library, loads of different modules available from official dev tools. We've got Pinia, we've got Tailwind that you can use. There's so many cool things that you can do with Nuxt. Nuxt config. So let's just look through some of the code that I've been working on. So if we come down to our web down here, what I've got is I've got my API running on localhost 8000 using artisan serve. We've got the front end running using pnpm and dev, which gives me port on 3000. I've got my queue running in the background. I've got somewhere that I can do some artisan stuff. And then I've got this one is mainly for Git so that I can do commits. I like to do this with my terminals down here because it just keeps things kind of lined up and I know where to do what. If I don't see any comments coming through, I do apologize. I've got one monitor at the moment. So what PHP Storm theme and font am I using? That is a good question. Appearance. I am using the Capuchin Mocha with JetBrains Mono. I've been meaning to stick my PHP Storm settings up somewhere, but I'll get around to that. So first things first, let's look at this front end here. Our app view, we've got some body attributes to set the height to full, set some default background and text stuff going on. The HTML attributes, away we go. We're setting the height to screen on the surrounding div around the Nuxt layout. Then Nuxt layout will load in this default layout here, which is from Tailwind UI. Then we just got the Nuxt page within there. Down here, what we've got is using the View Transition API in Nuxt, or well, in the browser, but the Nuxt implementation of it. And it just does some basic transitions to blur between pages. We've got a guest layout, which is super, super duper simple. We've got pages. Our index page, we've just got test, and then we can define some meta so we can set the title and the middleware. Then inside auth login, we've got a little bit more. We've got the schema coming from Zod, good old Zod. And we are saying that this is using the guest layout, and the middleware we're using is a Sanctum guest. We're going to say that the login is going to be using Sanctum auth. We then define our schema, define our state as a reactive state, then do an async submit on the form submit event, which will get the schema. And then we can just say get the event data, and that will log us in. We then got a little bit of just plain HTML, and then we're straight into NuxtUI just to show some cool stuff here. So let's just have a look at that. This is what we have. It's all very simple. This will all validate for us because it's using Zod under the hood. We got a link down here, which will turn into something in a little bit. But just to log in, let's go make sure that our database is migrated. So we can migrate fresh and seed. That is all good. Come back to Chrome. But now we can say, let's log in with these credentials. Sign in. And we are in the main application. We've got the user up here. I am Steve. If we come down to our Nuxt DevTools, what we can do down here is come to Pinia. Where is it? Where is it? Components, pages, overview. There's something down here. That's all the Nuxt stuff, the UI stuff, assets, modules. We've got that module in there. Components, runtime, middleware stuff. This is like next level cool. Right. So we've got Pinia. So we can look at the store. Nothing there. Where can I find it? Nope, don't need that. There is timeline, storage, VS Code. No, there's something somewhere where I can actually see the kind of the auth state, but I can never remember where it is. Data, Sanctum user identity. Here we go. We've got our user here. So, glad you find this topic interesting. Let's do this, right? So this is relatively basic so far. But what we want to do is down in our routes API down here, we're just returning request user, which, you know, the Sanctum stuff, it kind of looks for this, but we could probably do it a little bit better. So let's see what we can do here. So we are going to have a prefix of API. Then we're going to group everything. We'll do a static function in here, which will not return anything. So now we can start registering stuff. Within the API, we're going to want a certain place for middleware. So we're going to want to add auth Sanctum. And then down here will be like, I suppose, guest routes if and when we need them. Root, get, user, name, user. Don't need that should be prefix. This should be as. So then we can come over here and we can just do that. Come to our controllers. HTTP controllers. Let's create an API. API auth user controller. So what we want to do here is just invoke. So we're going to accept that request. And then we will return something shortly. First things first, let's just delete all of that. And let's just make sure this all gets connected. So user controller, done. Let's just Laravel pipe the whole thing. And now we are good. For now, what we will do is return the request user, so that when we come over to Chrome, this should all stay working. What we're going to do is just come over to application and manually clear the site data, refresh, take us to login. So now if we log in again, we should get the same thing in our Nuxt stuff over here. And we want to come over to, where is it? I never remember where it is. Where are you? Data, user identity, same thing, all good. So the first thing I like to do in this situation is come over to PHP Storm, and we want to kind of just do proper API stuff. So we're going to say make a resource, and we're going to say user resource. So what we really want to do here is say return a new user resource, where the resource is the request user. And for now, we're just going to say that we are returning a JSON resource. So when we come over to here, we can clean this up a little bit. Run Laravel pipes. We're going to add a quick property up here for the user authenticatable contract, and we're going to set that to the resource. Then down here, the parent to array, what we want to do is say the ID for the user is this resource ID. The name is name. We're going to set the email. And that is the main thing that we care about there. What I like to also do is make another resource, and we call it the date resource, because anytime we return a date from the API, we want it to be kind of similar, right? We're going to say new date resource, and the resource we're going to pass through this time is this resource, and created that. So on this date resource here, we're going to pass in effect, a carbon interface. That's a resource. So over here, we can just do this. We can say that the human version of the date passed in is diff for humans. We can then say the string value of it, because the string value is actually useful in certain scenarios. We can say do toDateTime string. Then we could also pass back the local time string, which will come from the request itself. So resource to local date time string. And then I always like to pass back the timestamp as well, in case I need to do any kind of arithmetic on the front end for any random reason. So that is all of that. That is all of that. Let's come back to Chrome and let's see how this now looks. So if we, again, clear that site data, when we refresh, we're just going to keep this open for now. Where was it? Data. Imports, pages, over. I'll just keep, we'll find it again. I need to learn where that is. So just steveb@gmail.com. We're going to say password, log in, come over to here, and let's go until we find it. It's down here. It is payload. So user identity. We've now got data, ID, name, email created. But that data is going to be a problem. Just check in on the chat. All good. So JSON resources in Laravel by default are wrapped in data. And that annoys me because I don't like it. What's this complaining about? Okay, just fix it. Okay, so in my app service provider, what I want to be able to do is say model should be strict because you don't want to eager load any relationships or anything like that. And then we also want JSON resource without wrapping. So now again, if we come back to Chrome, and we're just going to clear that site data again. I wish there was like a little right click and do it over here. That would be super useful. If you can build Chrome extensions, please build that. That would be useful for so many reasons. Log back in. Why does that keep coming up? I don't want to keep seeing that. So payload, user identity, ID, name, email created. Perfect. It is now exactly how we want it. However, we want to take it a step further because every user that signs in, they're going to have kind of a default role and permissions, right? Standard application, you're always going to have that sort of thing going on. So I am actually using, as I said earlier, the directory tree authorization package, which is super cool. And what it can do is you can do some permission creates, role creates. We can like build up this image in the background of what the permissions model is going to look like. So to do that, we kind of need to do that in our database seeder right now. We could do it in like a command or something like that. But for now, we're just going to do it in our seeder and worry about where it should be a little bit later. So we're going to say role query create. I haven't got any factories for this. So the name of this role is going to be just member. It's a member of the application. And the label, come back to here. How do we like to do? Okay, so we do it like that. Member is there. That can be capitalized. We're also going to say role query create an admin as well. So name is admin and the label is admin. So up here, we're just going to say member equals role query create, and then we can do a admin is that. So we've got some basic stuff going here. Next up, we are going to say create, I don't know. So we can say permission query create. I'm at Chrome. Let's see how I like to do this. Users.create. Perfect. So we can almost copy that there. Let's just grab that, come back to PHP Storm, and we want to be able to create users. We also want to be able to delete user. Users delete, labels delete users. Is that the right way around? It is. So we've got two different things. That's the wrong way around over here. My bad. Admin, admin. There we go. So users create and users delete. Only an admin can create a new user, and only an admin wants to be able to delete a user. However, we will have another one called list user. For now, we're just going to allow that to all members. All members can see everybody in effect. So now we need to assign. We can say that the admin, let's come back to Chrome and just go double check this. Admin permissions, save. Okay, so we can do this. Let's just do that bit. So the admin permissions, we want to save, create user. We also want to do delete user. Then the member permissions we want to save on the list user. Also, admin also wants to be able to list a user too. So there we go. And then our default user, we are going to say that they're an admin for now. So user roles save admin. Let's just refresh our database. And there we go. Now, if we come back to our resource over here, we want to be able to return the role as well as the permissions for the logged in user, because that's kind of vital, right? So this request user isn't going to be very useful. Instead, we are going to do it the Steve way. We're going to say public function construct. So into our constructor, we are going to pass in a read-only auth manager as auth. Which means we can make this whole class read-only. Then this down here, we want to say user query where ID is this auth ID first or fail. And there we go. Let's just make sure that we fix that up too. Now I'm going to go double check, make sure that is still working. So inspect, application, clear site data. How's the chat coming along? All going good. Good to see some people here. Always good to have someone to code along with, right? So inside our email, we can say just steve.mcd@gmail.com. Please don't spam me. And the password is password. So now if we submit, we're logged in over here. If we come over to that payload, user identity, we are still looking good. Loaded, color mode. There's lots of really cool stuff in Nuxt at the moment that you should 100% look into using. It just offers so much cool stuff. And what I like to do is use named parameters. The value is this. But I can never remember the hotkey. God darn it. Right. I think it might be that. There we go. We got it. We got it. Silly split keyboard. So we've got that. We can say user query where that. But we also want to say with now the relations that we want to load. Roles dot missions. We're going to do something like this for now. So back to Chrome. We are going to, again, I really need to find a quick way to do this, right? Refresh this. It's Steve McD. Oh, can't spell my name today. Steve McD @gmail.com. Password. Now, back to our data. Still looking good. So we can come over to here. And in our user resource over here, what we want to do is say that the role is going to be the name of the role is this resource. Okay, now they've got multiple roles, haven't they? So make a new resource for the role. Resource and the permission resource. So down here, we want to say that the roles is the role resource collection and the resource is going to be this when loaded relationship with roles. So come over the role resource quickly, and what we will do is just property role resource paragraph pipe fixer thing, and then down here, each role has got an ID. This resource ID, got a name, and it's got a label. That's all we care about right now, but each role also has many permissions. So permissions, we can say permission resource collection, and the resource is going to be this when loaded, and the relationship is permissions. Now to come to the permission resource, starting an API is always the slowest part because you end up creating this spider web of everything that you're going to need initially. And then you start to speed up as you start connecting all of the dots. So this permission has an ID, so we can say this resource ID, got a name, and it's got a label. For now, we will leave it at that. So that is all good. Come back to Chrome and let's clear the site data one more time. And then we should have roughly what we're looking. Page refresh should do. No, they do keep it in memory, unfortunately. I'm pretty sure that can be configured though. So just d@gmail.com, password. So now we can come over to here and we can click on our data, identity, roles, and permissions are loaded. We can create users, delete users, and list users because we are an admin. So that means inside of our UI, we have access to that information to conditionally load blocks and do stuff. Next up, what could we do? What can we do? So let's say that next up, we want to list all users in our UI. There's a use case, right? So come to pages, and then we're just going to say directory users, and we're going to have an index file within here. So index.view. We're going to script setup, and we're going to have a template. So what we need to remember here is this part over here. And then within here, we are just going to do a section list all users. So there we go. We want to be able to list all users. So in our layouts default, on this sidebar, we have got dashboard, which is going to be there. Users. And instead of name, it's going to be users. So come over to Chrome, refresh that. That should go to users, and we can list users. However, when this loads, we want to get some data, right? So if we come down to data fetching, we can use fetch, or use async data. So combined with fetch offers more fine-grained control. This is the sort of thing we want to do. So use async data, await, use async data, do that, fetch something. However, we kind of want to keep this in a store, right? We've got stores here. So let's go and say, let's create a users.ts. So export, let's go make sure that we are doing this correctly. Docs, getting started, state management, usage with Pinia. This is what we want. We want something similar to this. So for now, I'm just going to copy, and we're going to go and drop that in there. Define store, users store, use users store, state is going to be a list at this point. So let's say all like that. Then we want to actions fetch, do something within here. So now if we come back to Chrome, what we want to do is in the composables, we want to use the Sanctum client. So const client is the Sanctum client. Now I've not done this. It's always a bad idea to keep API responses in store. This is a fun one. So you will see as we go. You'll see as we go, don't worry. So what we're going to have is an action that is going to take this data and store it as all. So use async data, users. I don't even know what that's doing there. That's not what I want. So we want to just get stuff here. So we want to const users is equal to await client dot, I believe we can just do like fetch client API users. Okay, so what does client implements fetch interface? So all we got to do at this point is just get the data. Shouldn't have to do anything like that. So we are going to do API users. We can pass options there if we need to. And now we're just going to quickly console.log users. So on our pages, on our users index, we want to do some use async data users async. Back to Chrome. Let's make sure we do this properly because I've not done this sort of thing in quite a while. So let's store. We want to do that const website. So const users equals use some store and then call once. So let's just grab this a second. And we're also going to look in data fetching. Data from API routes. Data fetching. So we don't want to use fetch or async data. So what we could probably do here is something similar to this. So come down to here and we are going to do that. So users, so use user store. Dot fetch. So we want to be able to get that. So use async data, and then we are going to use user store dot fetch. At the minute, it's not returning anything, but we're going to go have a look and see how that works and see if we're even getting close. Come over to the console, come to here. Hydration mismatch network. Are we even calling it right now? We are not. So Who is good with this stuff other than someone who might not be on the screen, right? Okay, for now, what I would do is ignore the store and just focus on getting data. So we want to, say, use fetch, blah, 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 const data. We want to do something like this, right? But we want to use a client. So over in our store, we want to get the client like that. And then we want to say const users equals client API users console.log users. This is a waiting. There we go. So come over to Chrome. It's been a while since I've actually written any JavaScript, so you may have to bear that in mind. So we are not actually making any requests there, are we? Pages, components. Are we trying to do anything here? Use async data. Okay, so we want to look at use async data. Await use async data, then do something. Okay, we're going to do that. We're going to follow that approach and see if that will get logged where we want it. So, and then we are going to say that. And we're going to do data. Come back to here, refresh, see if anything's going on in the network. Client. What is even going on here? I've got no idea what I'm doing, do I? I haven't got anything. Refetch all data. Nothing is coming through in that use async data there. I may have. Okay, so let's restart a couple of things. So aserve and rerun dev. Nuxt is starting. So come over to users, and there's no data. Nothing. We're not even attempting anything here. But that's probably because we might. Are we getting? Is it because we're getting a 404 in the background? Could that be it? Because I've not actually implemented it. So I'll implement it and see what happens. Is there anything coming out in here? Oh, use Nuxt app. The composable that requires access to the Nuxt instance was called outside of a plugin. Blah 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 blah. Ooh, that's definitely something to do with me. Use Sanctum client. That is what's causing the issue. This. Is that causing the issue? Could it be that? Could it be that simple? Let's just do that. That's pretty much what I want to be doing, right? And then console.log on that data. It's almost like it's completely ignoring me. Hydration mismatch. I don't know if that's causing an issue. What we're going to do is come down to this menu button and just remove it for now. That's a form. Here's a menu. For now, we're just going to say we don't want the menu. Hopefully that stops everything. There we go. Client connected. I don't know if it did anything. Probably not. So let's just implement this endpoint and wait and see. So come over to API, down the routes. What we want to do, we've got get user. Then we're going to have a root prefix users as users group static function root get name next. Keyboard, come on, you can do this. Right, so over here we want to say app HTTP controllers API, and then we want to create a new users directory. So users, and in here we're just going to do an index. So index controller. Within here we will do a public function invoke. This will accept the request. And then it will do something shortly. Over here, we can now say index controller. Fix all of that up. So over in our index controller here, what we're going to want to do is say, can the authenticated user access this? So if we look back at this part here, you'll see that there is some middleware. Cache key, disable permission cache, already done some of that. Middleware. So we've got role and permission. So what we want to do is permission users list, for example. So on this specific route here, we want to say permission. We open up our database seeder, users.list. So we want to stop that at the middleware layer, not within here. We don't want the gate to access the controller. We want to do it in that middleware. So at this point, we can pretty safely say that we are allowed. So we want to be able to return a new a user resource collection. The resource we are passing through is user query get, and that's all we're going to do for now. So come back to Chrome, come over to here, refresh. Is it working? No, we're not getting any data, are we? Nothing in the network. Client, we're getting a proxy object. Oh, that is a good point. Is it being console logged within here? Let me rerun that. Refresh. No, it is not. We are getting client connected. We are getting something. So that on this page users index here, let's just not do that. And instead of saying we'll do list all users, we'll do a horizontal rule, and then we're going to say JSON dot stringify data. That's grown, and we're not actually getting anything. That's super annoying. Oh wait, no, we're on the wrong page. Here we go. Oh, we're getting redirected for some reason. Why are we being redirected? Middleware auth. If we just remove that, is that part of the problem? So, got that. Define Nux config. That'll all do that magic. Config. Redirect. On login. On auth only. Global middleware. Composables. So we should be able to get the Sanctum user using the Sanctum client. We can then go get that information. Get the config. Middleware for pages that require an authenticated user. Requires authentication for that. So let's make sure we've got global middleware disabled. Because I do question whether that is getting in my way. Down to web and Nuxt. And we're going to say false. So let's just restart that. And we're also going to restart that. Come over to Chrome, come to this application. We're going to clear all the site data. We get taken to there. So we can say just steve@gmail.com and password. We are logged in. Log in, get the user. All is good. All is well in the world. PHP Storm. Nothing wrong going on here. So now if I click on this, we are still getting redirected. So preserve the log. Dev.change. Why would we be redirected? What could possibly be causing a redirect? People who understand, I'm not sure if the Sanctum part requires SSR. Ooh, okay, so SSR could also be getting in the way. So Sanctum SSR is false. Let's restart that and see what happens. Without global middleware, perfect. Come to Chrome, refresh this. That was the issue. Okay, so we're getting a 500 internal error from here. Let's clear all that. We don't want to preserve the log. Users. We are getting bad method call exception. User has permissions. App models user, called undefined method, user has permissions. Okay, so the way that we are getting information is causing an issue. So let's close all of that. Let's focus back into that API. Who was it who said that? Benjamin, you are an absolute legend. Thank you very much for pointing that one out. So app models user. Use has permissions. This should be working. Why would it potentially not be working? Okay, so come back to here. User authorizable is what I need. There we go. So come over to PHP Storm, and we don't want the has permissions, and we don't want that either. Use authorizable, which means I can remove those two. Let's just see what that trait does. It says assign role, remove role, has role, has role, has permission. Perfect. So that should, in theory, work a little bit better. And we've got some users. Fantastic. So now if we come over to here, we can probably do, I don't know, on the UI side, that is all going to work and get the data. So on the pages, users index, we don't want to do any JSON stringify stuff. Instead, we're going to delete all of that, and we're going to say new container. And then we want to do a template v4 user in data, and the key is going to be user.id. Maybe we'll just do a quick UL here. Pick an LI there. And we're just going to say user.name. Chrome. And we've got Steve McDougall. Fantastic. So we're able, classic JS stuff. Okay, so let's come over and say, okay, we want Tailwind UI. What we want to do is look at some application components, and we are going to use, a grid list. A grid list will kind of do the job, right? So we'll get something like horizontal link cards code. I'm going to grab this. And in here, we're going to do that for user in data, user.id. Lots of stuff going on there. Not interesting, not interesting. We're going to just remove that. And we're going to say user.name and then user.email. Chrome. Come have a look. And we've got me. Ta-da! I am available. Here I am. Fantastic. So what we can then do is say, no, we're going to do a div, wrap everything, and a section ID for the content. We're going to say area labeled by content, and add a class of py12 to give it some kind of padding. Then we're going to have some users that we can do in here. So come over to PHP Storm. We are going to come to here, a tinker app models user factory count. Let's say 50. Create. Oh. Wait for that to do its business. Something went wrong. Yep. Why work? Have I got Tinkerwell? I do have Tinkerwell installed. That'll help. Come on, Tinkerwell. Where are you? Here you go. So we want to say that we want to set our working directory to be developer, GitHub, me, Laravel Nuxt, API, open. And let's just give ourselves a little bit of breathing room here. View, we're going to say toggle output. Can we do like the view mode? What was a view mode? Toggle detail dive. We're just going to do this. App models user factory count 10 and create. Run that. Run that. Awesome. So if we come back over to Chrome, refresh that, we've got some users. Fantastic. So we can get data from the API, and that loads pretty darn quick. However, I do question whether this should be in a kind of a store, because it feels like this is something that should be part of the state over here. So let's just put those next to each other a second. So blah, 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 blah. Async fetch. And then we could do, I don't know, that. And then we could say this dot all equals data. No, I don't know. I'm so not used to this front end malarkey. Maybe, I'll do something else. So let's just go down to usage for Pinia, blah, 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 Pinia module. Let's come to there. Let's go look at the usage and the docs. And then we are going to say getters, blah, 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 actions. So the action just needs to say this something. That's fine. So this dot all is that. So then we can say getters. We can say this getters all return this dot all. I feel like there's a better way to do some of this sort of stuff. So maybe then we could call it in Chrome. We want to say, use that over here, but use user store from users. And maybe we could say const store see if this works. Come on, you can do it. Const data is equal to store.all. Come back to Chrome. Maybe we need to say store.fetch first. Nope, ain't working. No idea what I'm doing. It's been so long that I've built front end stuff. I'm just going to stick to this because I know this is working. Use Sanctum client, do the magic, show the stuff. Come over to Chrome, that loads, and that loads pretty fast. So I don't think we need a store. So maybe I'll just delete them. What do people think? Yeah, Nuxt is awesome. API should be the only source of truth. I'm happy with that. So one thing that I would then do in our controller, HTTP controllers, API, users, index. At the minute, we are just returning this, and that is not how I do APIs. We want to return a new JSON response where the data is that. which means that we are returning a JSON response from that Chrome, all working as would expect. So how could this be improved? Have we got time? What time? I've been going for an hour. So this apparently use async data direct from the page component is the way. I am okay with that. So this works, right? There's nothing wrong with this. It does its job. However, it could be better. Now, the way I like to do this is to have like services over here, and we're just going to say a user service there. So within here, we are going to say this, and we're going to say a private read-only database manager is the database. That's for other things. Let's just fix that. So we want to say public function all. We want to get all users in a kind of default way across the board, right? So simplest way is that this will return a elephant collection. There we go. We don't need that in a minute because that'll be like we'll just shut that up a minute. So we're just going to say create array of data. That's going to return a user. And we want to return this database transaction. The callback is going to be user query create based on the data. And we're going to attempt that 3 times. That's it. So let's just set up a minute. So that's getting all users, and that works. Sparsely Laravel query builder. Yes, you can use a query builder, and it is pretty useful. But I'm not the biggest fan. It works, right? I used to just swear by it. So for now, what we're going to do is just switch over to this and make sure it's still working. So public function, construct, private, read-only, user service as service. And this can just be marked there. Then this, we can say this service all. And that's Chrome. Works exactly the same, right? What we'll do is just fix that up. Laravel pint it all. So we kind of want caching to happen. Now there's different layers of cache that you can do. You can do the response cache. We could use the Sparsy's response cache helper. We can add cache headers using the default Laravel approach. And then we can actually also cache the data itself from the query. Because imagine this is getting to be quite a big and expensive query. We might have 500,000-600,000 users that we're getting back in one go. Typically, we'd paginate before then, but we want to look at caching too. And typically what we'd do is return cache, remember, users all, callback is going to be user query get. And then we'd set some sort of TTL to be, I don't know, something like that. However, remember, returns mixed. Let's see if that works. Yeah, it does. So this is one way you can do it. And what the cache facade will do is it will give you, let's just remove that and come down, and it will basically pull out the cache manager. So just like the database, we can say private cache manager as the cache, or depending where you're from in the world, you might say cache, but you know, you're wrong, I'm not. This cache, remember the key uses all PTL 3600, and the callback again is this time static function of user query get, meaning we can remove that, and we're not relying on magic anymore. So we can delete that, come back to Chrome. Again, still working. Now, can we take this further? Of course we can. Let's come over here. Let's say enums cache, and we're going to say we're going to create a cache key enum. Now this is going to return a string. Case users all users all. There we go. So instead of doing this, we can then say cache key users all value. Come back to Chrome. And that's it. We can replace this later on if we want to do anything. Then we can do something like a make command bust cache command. So console bust cache. For now, we're just going to delete all of this. We're going to say as command, the name of the command is going to be bust cache. Oh, Jesus, what am I doing? Bust cache, and then the description is going to be bust the stored application cache. So again, what we can probably do in this handle method here is say cache manager as cache for each cache key cases as key. For now, I'm just going to die and dump on that key and see how it looks. So a bust cache uses all. So for each one, we want to say cache forget key value, like that. Eventually, we will return a command success, and then we want to say import as an alias symphony. Oh, let's just symphony command, and then that's going to return an int. And there we go. So we want to be able to bust cache. We can run it, we can schedule it, we can do what we need, and we're busting that cache over time. Do chats with links get deleted? They shouldn't do. They might do. Laravel Jutsu is actually a moderator, so he could probably help you with that one. Now, if I come back, I don't need that anymore. So we've got a way to bust the cache, and we've got a way to cache the information. Then what else might we need? We might want to say, okay, so we're also going to want a cache TTL enum. So this is going to return some form of int. So if we come back to cache, remember TTL is going to be some form of closure, date interval, get an item from the cache or execute given command. So let's go to Chrome. Get a Laravel docs, cache we want to cache some information. So go visit that. Come down to the storing items in the cache. We're going to say cache repository, blah, 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 not interested. Driver. Okay, cache usage, cache get, cache put, 10 minutes. So where did it say what the TTL is? I believe the TTL should be seconds. Cache remember, retrieve and delete, storing an item, seconds equals, yeah. So that's seconds. So what we can do there is in our cache TTL here, we can say, so there's 60 seconds in a minute. So we can say 60 times 60. 3,600 is 1 minute. Cache 1 minute. So we can say 3600. Case 10 minutes. So then we can say, okay, so we've got that and we want to then times that by 10. So 36,000. So 36,000. However, I do like to do it this way, just from a visual perspective. So then down in this user service, instead of this, we can then say cache TTL. We're going to cache that for 10 minutes. And there we go. Come back to Google Chrome. All is good. Lost it. Where am I? There you are. So that's kind of how I would approach that one. Then we're not leaning on any kind of magic stuff happening anywhere. You could create a cache service if you really wanted to keep it all kind of in one place. So let's say you're going to say, I don't know, cache service. Inside here, you can say public function construct. And we're going to say that be private, read-only, cache manager, cache. You can then make this read-only, fix that whole file, public function, remember. You can then say cache key, as a key, cache TTL as a TTL, and then the closure as a callback. That's going to return next. Then we can fix that whole file quickly and return this cache. Remember, where the key is key value, the TTL is TTL value, and the callback is a callback. So now we can come back to our user service and say, actually, we want this to be that cache service. So then we can say cache remember for users all for 10 minutes, do that. And it keeps it so much cleaner and simple. We've then got one specific place where we can manage cache, all using the magic of dependency injection. Is it still pinned? Sorry, let me remove that a minute. Hide. Why are you not? There we go. We got rid of it. Sorry, Benjamin. But I don't know what's going on with YouTube. Michael, feel free to reach out to me some way on, and I can share that plugin link. So that's how I would do that. So then in our index controller, we've got this service all. And then you can take it even further because we're building an API here, right? So let's say we're going to say, okay, I don't know, responses. We're going to have some form of collection response. Now this is going to receive some information. So we can say construct. We're going to receive a private read-only resource collection of data. And we're going to implement response, which means we can do this. Then to response is going to have a symphony response there. Then this can return a, wow, what was that? Return a new JSON response where the data is this data. Collection response can be read-only. This can be cleaned. So then on our index controller, we can return a new collection response where the data is that. Remove that. This can then be returned as a responsible. Move this. Come back to Chrome. Still working exactly as I would expect. So our collection response can do that. But then we can take it that step further. So HTTP factories. And then we can create a header factory. We say public static function, our default headers, when we return a response. It can be an array. So collection response, we can say that the headers is header factory default. So let's composer acquire just PHP SDK. No, wrong one. SDK tools. There we go. That's what we wanted. So in my SDK tools package, I've actually got a few headery things already created. Where am I? I'm somewhere in here. HTTP headers. You've got like an authorization. You've got a token. Is there anything on the SDK that I've added? No. enums, method, status, UI. Not as useful as I thought it would be. Okay, ignore that. But if we come over to here, what we can do is we can start setting some defaults. So we can say that our content type is going to be application JSON. Now we can, that can be done through middleware anyway. We want to accept application JSON. We can say X custom header is going to be boop. Yeah, we can start to set random things that are important for our API responses. Chrome, come over to our network, refresh, users, response. We've got our response here, blah, blah, blah. Headers, response headers. Is it going to be in there? X custom headers, boop. So there we go. We can actually just start to do things really nicely. So we can do things like, I don't know, encoding, and there's so many different headers that we could do at this point, right? Cache TTL enum 360 is not 1 minute, isn't it? Let me cache TTL. So what is that? 10 minutes. 60 seconds. So if cache is being put in per second, oh yes, that's, oh my God, silly Steve. 3600, and that is just 60. Jesus Christ, what was I thinking? So 60 seconds that's 1 minute. Oh, Steve. That should be then 6,000 or 600. 60 times 10 is. My brain just is not working today. Yeah, that's 600. Cool. So let's do it like that. That would do. That would do. I'm thinking too far ahead of myself, aren't I? So if we then go like table plus, for example, come to the local Postgres and come down to our API over here, what we will see is inside of our cache, we've got users all. We can probably delete that one. Authorization permissions, that's been cached. Users all, that's been cached. So we're able to get things from the cache really quickly and really easily. Nuxt is able to see it. All we've got to do then is add stuff to our API, find a way to implement it on here, and we are good. And that, ladies and gentlemen, and anything else that may be joining us, that's how we do it. So I'm going to call it a day. That's an hour and 20 minutes. Thank you very much for joining me. There's other ways that you can do this, and there's different methodologies on how you can get data, but this is a way that works. And I'm focusing more from the API perspective right now. It works, right? We're getting everything that we might need from the API, then on the web, coming down to the page. The async data way works. So we can say async data, users, here's a callback. We got it. And it just works. And there's nothing wrong with how it's working. It's pretty darn fantastic, if you ask me. So users, we can then access all of that data. So that's it for now, I think. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Got feedback, drop it in the comments. If there is an issue with comments deleting, I'll have a look at the rules that are configured for YouTube, see if it's maybe a little bit too strict or what. See what we can do on that one. But other than that, thank you for joining me. Make sure you subscribe if you want to see some more content, and we'll plan the next one for next week or tomorrow. Just let me know. You can find me on Twitter and other places as just Steve King. So reach out to me, let me know. And as usual, thank you very much. You have all been awesome. Have a good day. Go subscribe. Enjoy the rest of your day. It's almost the weekend. Hold in there. We are almost there. Take care and goodbye.